Hello guys, I'm Super Ron, welcome back to the channel and we're back at Auto Shack for another episode on the Caddy show car. You saw in the previous episodes, I've got this 1.8 litre turbo engine out of an Audi TT, all wired up into the Mk1 loom, and now we have got power everywhere we need it in the bay. The engine ECU is live and we've even got it turning over on the key. So by the end of this episode, I want to hear this thing fire up. So although we have now got power to the engine, there are still a few things that we have got to finish off. This engine came to us on a pallet, so we've never actually heard it run. And it's also sitting on there for a few years. So when we took the fuel rail off and the injectors, right at the beginning of the build, there's loads of green slime that came out from congealed fuel. And we tried cleaning the injectors, but they just wouldn't spray properly. So we've got a full brand new set of Bosch injectors to go in. There's also a few other sensors that we're missing, like the airflow meter, the verter valve, a few others, so we've got all them here as well. And of course, the other thing we need is fuel. So we've got our brand new fuel tank under there, which is completely empty. So we need to fill that up and also check the AN fittings, because we've converted the tank to AN, just like we have for the complete fuel system, the fuel rail, the swell pots. There's not a single Jubilee clip on this fuel system, it's all in AN fittings. So I just want to get some fuel in it, check those compression fittings on the tank are all okay, and then we can start powering up the fuel pumps, priming all the fuel to the front, and fingers crossed we will be in a good position to start. So first things first, let's get some fuel for the tank, and the good thing about this new workshop, we have a petrol station just outside. How convenient. Right, so that's 4 cans, that's 20 litres in there now, and we've got nothing coming out the bottom, which is great news, so I'll get it up in the air and give it a check. I would have wheeled it out and just filled it up at the petrol pump, because this is a great roller at the moment, but with everything being fresh and this new AN fitting being a little bit of an experiment, I didn't want it coming out over the floor as quick as I was putting it in. So let's get this up in the air and check out all the AN fittings. So underneath here is our brand new tank and all the conversion torque fittings. That is all looking bone dry. So like I said at the front, everything under here is in AN, all the way from the tank to the lift pump, from the lift pump to the top of the swell pot, and then we've got our submerged high pressure tank inside, AN fittings, all the way along, all clipped up to the front, and they go up to the fuel rail and then returns back, all clipped up nicely, back into the swell pot, and then that's got its return back into the tank. So with 20 litres, we're over half full of this little tank. So the fuel is way up here, and we've got no signs of leaking at all. Great success. So up front, we have our standard fuel rail, which we converted to AN fittings using Torx's compression setup. Then we've got our fuel lines to the front. But as you can see, we've got no injectors here at the moment. I think before I put them in, I'm just going to flush the system through. So I'm going to power up the lift pump, and that will fill up our swell pot, and that should fill it up all the way, and we might get some fuel out of the return here. And then once we're happy the swell pot is full, we can put the main pump on, and that will put our full fuel pressure up to here. So we'll put a pot in here so it doesn't splash out everywhere, and I'll take the rail off and fit the injectors. I've got the jump pack back on. What I'm going to do is bridge the fuel pump relay so it runs all the time, like that. Good thing about this fuse box, when it detects a blown fuse, it actually puts a little light on so you know which fuse is blown before you have to remove all the fuses. So this is showing blown because there's not a fuse in there. And I've got 2 fuses. I put the top one for the main fuel pump and the bottom one for the lift pump, because the main pump is going to have a 20 amp fuse in it, whereas the lift pump only draws about 1.5 amps. So you don't want a massive 20 amp fuse on something that shouldn't go over 2 amps. So we put a 5 amp fuse in that one, that's what it recommends. And this should activate the lift pump, filling up the system. And it is. So I can hear that ticking away at the moment. That's filling up the swell pot, and then when that's full, that will return to the tank, and we might get some come through at the front. So I've got prepared with the pot, and here we are. And this will be a final flush through as well. Let's get this up and check for any leaks. Oh, I can see a little drip coming from somewhere. Oh, coming from the main pump there. So we'll just nip that up. Apart from that, everything looks pressurised. The tank is all good. The lift pump looks happy. So all the lift pump does is take it out of the tank, into the lift pump, up, and that just continuously fills the swell pot where the main pump lives. So I've just taken the check valve off because I nipped it up and it was still just leaking on that face. And when I got it off, I noticed, as you can see, it's not been seating down on the copper washer. And on the end of the thread here, you can see the last thread is just bottoming out. You can see the anodized has come off. So it's not clamping onto the sealing washer. So it must mean the threads inside don't go quite as deep as the original Bosch 044, which normal circumstances shouldn't be a problem with a banjo bolt, but this must just be slightly longer. So I'll just nip off those last couple of threads, and then that'll still sit on all them, and then that'll clamp nicely on the washer. That still wasn't enough. It is just bottoming out in the bottom of the pump. So I've took it apart so I can shorten this down, and what I found inside is just a simple spring with a seal on the top, and that is the one-way valve. So when the fuel goes through it, it pushes that spring open, and when the fuel pump stops, that spring returns it and seals it off. So now I can shave this down and not worry about it all getting inside because I can clean it out, but we'll get it in our Torx grips and just shorten that down a thread. It has got a beveled end on it, but we're not actually using that in this application. We're not ANing onto that, we're using this mating face here, so it doesn't matter if we shorten it down. So let's do that. Better. The good thing about aluminium, it's just so easy to work with. So that's brought it down perfectly. Clean this up, get it back together and get it on. There it is back on, and no leaks. It just needed shortening just slightly so that copper washer seated on the housing, and now I can actually hear it returning into the tank. I can hear it splashing in the top of the tank there, which means the swell pot is full. So let's give this main pump some power. Put the fuse in the top one. That has got all the flow. So just in a matter of seconds, we've got that much. I've just plugged the fuel pump relay back in, so everything is as it should be. So if I turn the ignition on, that should prime the pumps. Like so. Right, let's get these injectors in. So these are brand new Bosch injectors. The standard part number for the ARY. There'll be plenty for this, so let's get these on. Check. And all back on. I've just bridged the fuel pump relay again so we can pressurise up the high pressure system, check for leaks, and we are all good. So that should be a nice solid 3 bar at the rail, and then the regulator will return the rest back to the tank, because this pump can flow a lot more than that. So we'll just disconnect that. Put the relay back in as it should be, and then we are all complete and ready. We've got a few more things in the bay we've got to do first. When we got the engine, and it's common on these, this breather pipe had all perished, cracked and broken, and a couple of the other ones are a little bit on the dodgy side. And also, although we've got an airflow meter looking thing in there, this is just a mock-up and it's only got the housing. but we have got all those ready. So here are all our pipes. Here's the other end of that broken pipe. These ones are for the secondary air injection, so we don't need any of them. These are the ones we need. This is the one we made up for the brake servo vacuum. And we went online and found you can still buy the full set. So these are all the ones we need. This is the broken one that's all perished. Got a new hockey puck breather as well. As you can see, these are all Audi items. And then we've also got brand new genuine Bosch airflow meter. We've got a genuine VW diverter valve. We've got a new set of plugs. So I've got to put this spaghetti together so it looks like this again. Get that on the car and we'll start plugging up some holes. And here we are with all the pipes back on. I've got all the new breather pipes on. Right down the bottom you can see all the new clips. They came up to those breathers up here. They go to the rocker cover, up to the pancake, tucked around there at the back. We've got our brand new genuine diverter valve on. We've got all our brake servo vacuums back on. All the pipes are now bunged and plunged up. And we've got our new airflow meter on and plugged in. And it's good we did have all the extra pipes. I was just going to fit the wrong broken one. But then when I took this one out of the block, you can see that was in pretty poor shape. Obviously the other broken ones, these are all just a little bit squishy. The only one that was slightly different in this kit, which must be just for a different model, is this, which is a brake booster vacuum. And usually your brake servo just gets its vacuum from the inlet, but on the 1.8Ts they have this fancy, like a Venturi valve, and it takes a vacuum from the inlet to the turbo, vacuum from the inlet manifold after the throttle body, and this is kind of a brake booster somehow, so the vacuum that goes to your servo is even more. So they're not necessary for conversions, and usually people just go straight from the inlet, straight to the servo, but that's what this one is. Down here, it's just got a little booster that does some vacuum trickery that just gives you a bit more braking assistance. So I don't see that as a bad thing. So I think we are getting pretty close. The only thing we have still got to do is we've got our one boost pipe from the throttle body to the top of the intercooler, but our bottom one still hasn't got a boost pipe, and that goes to the one out of the turbo. So we did slowly mock that up, but we didn't finish that. But ideally, to start it up, we are going to need that connected. The only thing we're not going to have is a map sensor, which is what this one goes to, and that goes on that boost pipe. But we should have enough together now to get it running. Right, let's turn it over a few more times without the ECU connected, no plugs in, just to get that oil circulating all the way around, because it has been sat, like I say, for quite a few years. So I want to make sure we've got oil everywhere. All right, before we flatten the battery pack, let's put some plugs in and see what happens. 1, 2, 3, 4. All packs in. Let's connect the ECU back up. Fuse back in. Electronically, we're all ready. I've just rechecked the oil and that's now on max. I just had to put about half a litre in that. We are all connected up. Everything is together. Doesn't matter how many times I do this, the first start is always a bit daunting. It's not going to be very happy because we haven't got that boost pipe connecting the intercooler to the turbo. So the turbo is going to be blowing out onto the floor. Then the intercooler is just going to be sucking in, normally aspirated, which means the air that's going through the airflow meter isn't going to make it to the engine. So it's going to be a little bit unhappy about that. But I just want to hear it fire up. I want to hear some noise, and it is going to be a lot of noise because we've got that screamer pipe style downpipe on the back. We haven't ever heard this engine run, but when I took the sump off to put the shallow sump on, it was immaculate inside. We've got fresh oil, fresh filters. I've done the new cam belt, new water pump. So I just want to hear it fire. Ignition on, everything's clicking. Fingers crossed. It's alive! Absolute great success. Well, I can't believe how easy that fired up. And relax. That actually runs really well considering the airflow meter isn't detecting any air that's going into the engine. That's sitting there idling nicely. Obviously, I don't want to run it for very long because we haven't got any coolant in there yet. But that is the big hurdle conquered. We have a working, running car. So I think the next thing is going to be get this coolant system all together, fill it with coolant, and then see if it'll run for longer. We're still waiting for a header tank and a fan switch at the minute, so I can't really crack on with the coolant system. So I think I will just finish off all the wiring in here, get the tacho box connected, get the OBD port connected, and then we really will be on top of it. A little bit more wiring. So our last two little bits to wire in is our tacho box and our OBD port. So these both connect to the orange plug that was from the Audi TT. What the tacho box is for is because the Audi TT has a modern digital signal which sends the RPM message to the rev counter, whereas the Caddy uses a much older analog signal. So this just needs an ignition live and an earth, and then we connect the green and brown wire to the green wire on here, and then the white wire to the back of the fuse box, which is this red and black wire, and that connects it up to the GTI clocks and makes the rev counter work. The OBD is also really simple to wire up. You just need a power and two earths, and then it just links into the K line, which is our other last wire in the orange plug, this grey and white. So that connects to the K line, and then that will let all our diagnostic machines plug in and talk to the ECU. So I'll get these in, and the other last thing I'm going to do now is this is the lambda sensor wire. So you can see where the plug is there, so that can just join straight into the bottom of the ECU there, and we won't have this huge loop inside the car. So let's get this smashed out, and it's in. So I've just taped that up there, so that's tucked out the way. That's all wired into the loom. Got the OBD port there ready. I'm probably going to try and cut a little hole in the back of the glove box, so that will just hold in there, then you can just plug it from the glove box. That's all wired into the loom as well, and they've just got their earth point going to that. So let's see if this rev counter works. I have noticed on this dash, I think there's something wrong with the circuit board. This is the GTI clocks. They didn't come with it, but it's a bit hit and miss when the plug's on properly to what lights up. I think they've got a loose connection in the plug somewhere. I'm gonna have to look at that. Right, I think I've wiggled it into a position. We've got most things lit up. Got the time, fuel gauge is working. Let's see if we've got rev counter. Winner! So that's something we've got to sort out, this loose plug here. Another tick. Let's see if we can plug it in to the computer. Plug in our dongle, see if it will talk. Scanner, Audi 2004, TT, ARY. Okay. Engine, we're in. Codes. Ah, yes. It's unhappy. Got map sensor, intermittent, coolant temperature, power supply, injectors, N75 valve. Clear all these. Still codes present. And we're left with manifold pressure map sensor. So that is our map sensor, which isn't plugged in, and that is the only thing that it's not happy about. I'll take that. I've just jumped over to the driver's side to finish off the wiring for the pedals here. We've got the blue plug from the ECU loom, which is for the drive-by-wire throttle pedal. Fully electronic. We didn't have to cut that. That sits where it sits. But what we have added in is the wiring for the brake light switch. Originally on the Caddy, the brake light switch is in the engine bay on the brake master cylinder, and it's a pressure switch, but that's Caddy only. On Mk1 Golfs, they are in here. So the bolt holes were already there. I made a little bracket and got the Passat one in. And the reason I wanted a modern brake switch is because this one has 4 wires coming out of it. As standard, you usually just have 2 wires going to the brake switch, which are these 2 outers. It's always supplied with power from the fuse box, and then when the brake switch is pushed in, it goes out the second wire, and that goes all the way back to the brake lights. A nice simple circuit. On cars with drive-by-wire and cruise control, they have another set of contacts on the centre 2, and this is to deactivate cruise control, or what we're interested in, if there's ever a problem with the drive-by-wire throttle pedal and for some reason it thinks it is down, as soon as you hit the brake pedal, that will disengage the electronic throttle. So it's just a bit of a safety aspect on the conversion. So all I've done is the power wire that comes in now supplies both of these terminals, and then the extra one sends and go back to the ECU, which was in this black switch, this red and black wire, that goes back to the ECU. So let's give the brake lights a little test. And brake. Perfect. So we probably could plug the OBD back in and check on the measuring blocks that it is registering that the brake switch is being pressed. So I might do that in the future, but for now, everything is working nicely. So we are fully keyed up. Great success. Well, I think I am going to wrap this episode up here. I have completed my goal for the day. We have got it up and running under its own steam. It took a bit of fettling with that fuel fitting on the back, and I have contacted Torx and just let them know about the situation in case they need to make some modifications, that replacement pump isn't the exact copy of the Bosch 44 to the exact millimetre. It was literally just 1 extra thread, but that was stopping the washer bottoming out and sealing. Now it's been pumping away and no problems at all. I've got all the wiring sorted out inside. Everything now in the Audi loom that wasn't needed is now cut off and gone. We're now fully OBD'd up so we can talk to the engine, and it's always quite funny plugging in these Mk1 Golfs into a modern OBD system. That'll be worth its weight in gold. If there is any problems in the future, we can just plug it in and read the codes. So I hope you've enjoyed this episode. Make sure you give it a like. Don't forget, we have got the full Caddy Crew merchandise where you can get the t-shirts, the hoodies, to show everyone you are part of the Caddy Crew. Also, if you're only just finding this video today, we have got a full playlist because I am hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours into this now. We stripped it down to a bare shell. We fitted a full 4-link air suspension setup on the back. It's had a full underside restoration, and then we welded up, smoothed the bay, got all that painted, got the engine back in. So if you're interested, make sure you give that a look and you'll be all ready for the next episode next week. So until next time, make sure you have fun.